Right. Let's talk about becoming a US citizen. It's a bit like trying to join a very exclusive, very bureaucratic country club. One that requires a mountain of paperwork and a solemn promise not to be a complete git. At the core of this process is a concept called good moral character, or GMC. In simple terms, this is the government's way of asking, are you a decent person? It's a fundamental requirement, a hurdle every aspiring citizen must clear. Welcome to Prospect Global, your go-to hub for everything US immigration and visas. We break down the rules, updates, and secrets you need to know. Subscribe now and join our growing community. The government wants to ensure the people it welcomes into the national family are stand-up individuals who respect the law and the society they wish to join. This has always been true, but what it means to be a stand-up individual is evolving. The government's vetting process, their vibe check, has become far more comprehensive. For years, proving good moral character, or GMC, was relatively straightforward, if tedious. It was mostly a checklist of bad things you hadn't done. Avoid major crimes, and you were likely in the clear. But hold on, the landscape is shifting dramatically. Recent changes, fully felt in 2025, are rewriting the rule book on GMC. It's no longer just about the absence of negatives, it's about the powerful presence of positives. USCIS now places significant weight on your contributions. Think of it as building a compelling case for your character. Have you been actively involved in your community, perhaps volunteering at a local school or food bank? Are you a dedicated caregiver for your children or an elderly parent? These family responsibilities are now seen as strong evidence of your character. Your educational achievements, a history of stable, lawful employment, and a consistent record of paying your taxes all paint a picture of a responsible, contributing member of society. Even your length of lawful residence can bolster your case, demonstrating long-term commitment. Conversely, the scrutiny on negative conduct has intensified. USCIS is looking beyond the criminal code at behavior that, while not always illegal, might not align with the standards of an average citizen. This could include a pattern of repeated traffic offenses, accusations of harassment, or even aggressive business practices. Conditional bars for things like multiple DUIs or unlawful voting are being applied more strictly. However, a past mistake doesn't automatically close the door. This is a crucial change, a new, stronger emphasis on rehabilitation. If you have blemishes on your record, you now have a clearer path to demonstrate genuine reform. This means showing you've complied with probation, paid back taxes or child support, and are actively making amends. Credible letters of support from community leaders or employers who can speak to your transformation are invaluable. It's about proving you've learned, grown, and are now a positive force. This all stems from a broader shift toward giving USCIS officers more subjective discretion. While heinous crimes like murder remain permanent disqualifiers for a vast range of other behaviors, the decision now rests on a totality of the circumstances review. Officers weigh the good against the bad, creating a more uncertain and individualized process. These changes, influenced by efforts to tighten access to immigration benefits, affect the nearly 1 million immigrants who seek to become citizens each year. So what does this mean for you? It means you must be your own best advocate. Prepare for a more thorough background review and potential delays. Proactively gather documentation of your positive contributions, and be ready to address any past infractions with clear evidence of your rehabilitation. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, has decided that simply not being a hardened criminal isn't enough anymore. They're moving away from the simple checklist and towards a more comprehensive approach called a holistic review. Imagine your life as a storybook. In the past, the officer would only read the chapter titled Criminal Convictions. Now they want to read the whole book, from cover to cover. On the one hand, this could be a positive development for some. If you've spent years volunteering at a local food bank, coaching a children's football team, before this shift, the assessment of good moral character was largely a backward-looking, box-ticking exercise. These include things like murder, an aggravated felony conviction. Now, fast forward to 2025, and the picture looks very different. But on top of that, there is now this second, much fuzzier layer of review. The new holistic approach means that even if you have a perfectly clean criminal record, let's get practical. The shift to a holistic review of good moral character isn't just legal jargon. It has real-world consequences for every single person applying for U.S. citizenship. So, how does this actually affect an ordinary applicant? What does it mean for you when you're gathering your documents and preparing for your interview? The USCIS policy memo gives some specific examples, and they are quite revealing. They paint a picture of a much more detailed and, frankly, more subjective evaluation process. The agency is now looking beyond the statutory bars to citizenship and examining the complete pattern of an applicant's behavior. Let's break down what they're scrutinizing more closely, starting with the negative factors. One of the most talked about areas is traffic infractions. In the past, a few speeding tickets were unlikely to derail a citizenship application unless they were linked to a more serious crime like drunk driving. That has changed. Now, USCIS may view A of traffic offenses, even minor ones, as evidence of a disregard for the law. Multiple tickets for speeding, running red lights, or driving with a suspended license can collectively paint a picture of someone who doesn't respect the rules that govern society. This scrutiny extends to other areas too. An officer might look at a failure to pay taxes on time, or not meeting court-ordered child support obligations as part of this negative pattern. But on the other side of the coin, and this is crucial, positive actions are now officially on the table to counterbalance the negative. This is where you can build a powerful case for your good moral character. The review is holistic, which means the good is weighed alongside the bad. This is where your community service and civic engagement come into play. Have you been a long-term volunteer? Do you have significant family responsibilities like caring for an elderly parent or a disabled child? These actions demonstrate compassion and reliability. Your employment history is also a key factor. A record of stable, lawful employment shows you are a responsible, contributing member of your community. Educational achievements, like earning a degree while working, showcase your dedication and drive for self-improvement. Perhaps most importantly, the new policy places a greater weight on evidence of rehabilitation. If you have made mistakes in the past, this is your opportunity to demonstrate genuine reform. For example, an applicant with a past DUI who has since completed all court-ordered programs consistently attends support meetings and provides credible letters of support from community leaders is actively proving their rehabilitation. This means proactively addressing your past. It involves paying overdue taxes or child support, complying with every term of your probation, and gathering evidence that you have changed for the better. The officer has the discretion to see that your past conduct does not reflect your present character. Your job is to provide them with overwhelming proof that you are worthy of citizenship today. As you can probably imagine, this new approach has sparked a fierce debate with passionate arguments on both sides. Supporters of the stricter, holistic review argue that it's a necessary step to protect the integrity of U.S. citizenship. They contend that citizenship is not a right, but a privilege. A USCIS spokesperson famously said that citizenship is the gold standard and should be reserved for the world's best of the best. However, critics see this policy in a much darker light. Immigrant advocates, some former USCIS officials, to understand the potential impact of these rule changes, it helps to look at the sheer scale of naturalization in the United States. This isn't a niche issue affecting a handful of people. It's a process that millions of families navigate every year. According to data from USCIS, the number of immigrants becoming naturalized citizens. If you are a green card holder hoping to apply for U.S. citizenship in this new era, the key takeaway is to be prepared. The rules have changed. You need to adjust your strategy. First, be proactive about building a positive record. Don't wait until you fill out the application to think about good moral character. Start now. Get involved in your local community. Meaningful ways. Volunteering. Joining a parent-teacher association. So, to wrap this all up, the journey to U.S. citizenship in 2025 has a new, rather large bump in the road. An expanded and more subjective definition of good moral character. This isn't just a minor tweak in policy, it's a fundamental shift in how applications are evaluated. The U.S. government is no longer satisfied with simply knowing you're not a criminal according to the letter of the law. The new standard requires a holistic review of your life, weighing your positive contributions against any negative conduct, even if that conduct never resulted in a criminal conviction. So what does this mean in practice? It means USCIS officers now have significantly more discretion to look beyond your rap sheet and into the very fabric of your life in the United States. They are tasked with answering a much more personal question. Are you the kind of person who embodies the values of this nation? They now want to know if you are, in their eyes, a genuinely good person who contributes positively to society. And proving this requires a proactive approach. Let's start with the positive attributes. Long-term, consistent community involvement is now a huge plus. We're not talking about a one-off volunteer day right before you apply. Think about sustained engagement, regularly helping at a food bank, coaching a youth sports team, or being an active member of your local parent-teacher association. These activities demonstrate a genuine commitment to your community. Family responsibilities are also given significant weight. Are you the primary caregiver for an elderly parent or a child with special needs? Have you successfully raised your children, ensuring they are educated and responsible members of society? These are powerful testaments to your character. Your professional life matters too. A history of stable, lawful employment and educational achievements, like earning a degree or a professional license, shows dedication and self-sufficiency. And of course, financial responsibility is paramount. This means meticulously filing and paying your taxes every single year, and managing your finances without improperly relying on public benefits. But just as positive actions are weighed more heavily, so too is negative conduct, and this is where the new policy gets tricky. USCIS will now scrutinize behavior that is technically legal, but could be seen as socially questionable. For example, a long history of traffic offenses, even if they were all just paid fines, might be interpreted as a disregard for public safety and the law. Similarly, a documented history of civil complaints like repeated noise violations or accusations of harassment could be used to argue that you don't live in harmony with your neighbors, a key aspect of being a good citizen. The policy also clarifies certain conditional bars. For instance, having 2 or more convictions for driving under the influence, or DUI, during your statutory period creates a rebuttable presumption that you lack good moral character. This means the burden of proof is on you to convince the officer otherwise. Other actions like unlawful voting, even if done by mistake, or certain drug offenses can also place you in this difficult position. Essentially, any conduct that deviates from what might be considered the average law-abiding behavior of citizens in your community could become a roadblock. For anyone preparing to apply for citizenship, the message is clear. A past mistake doesn't have to be a permanent disqualifier. In fact, the new guidance places a greater emphasis on rehabilitation. If you have negative factors in your history, demonstrating genuine reform is your most powerful tool. This is your chance to show that you've learned from your past and have changed for the better. For example, if you have that DUI on your record, you can provide evidence of completing court-mandated alcohol awareness programs, proof of long-term attendance at support groups, and credible letters from sponsors or community leaders who can attest to your sobriety and reformed character. If you failed to pay taxes or child support in the past, you must show that you have paid what you owe in full, or have entered into a formal payment plan and are making consistent, on-time payments. The key is providing concrete, verifiable evidence that you have taken responsibility for your actions and are now in full compliance with your obligations. Be prepared. This shift towards a more holistic review places these changes within the broader context of recent immigration policy. Affecting the nearly 1 million immigrants who seek to naturalize each year, this policy creates a more uncertain and subjective process. While serious offenses like murder or aggravated felonies remain automatic bars to citizenship, the gray area for denial has widened considerably. The individual USCIS officer adjudicating your case now holds more power than ever to make a subjective judgment call based on the total picture you present. Be proactive. So what does this mean for you, the applicant? First, expect a much more thorough review of your life and potentially a longer processing time for your application. Be prepared for the possibility of receiving a request for evidence, or RFE, asking for more documentation about your character. The heightened risk of denial for what might have previously been considered minor infractions is real, especially if they aren't counterbalanced by a mountain of positive evidence. Be perfect, or as close to it as you can manage. Your new mantra should be, document everything. Document your good deeds. Don't just list your volunteer work. Get letters from the organizations you've helped. Don't just mention your stable job. Include letters of recommendation from your employers, past and present. Gather your tax transcripts from the IRS for the entire statutory period. Collect diplomas, certificates, and awards. Create a good character portfolio that tells a compelling story of your life in America. Be honest about your missteps. Never try to hide a past issue. It will almost certainly be discovered, and the attempt to conceal it is often viewed more negatively than the issue itself. Instead, face it head-on. Write a clear, concise, and remorseful statement explaining the circumstances. And most importantly, back it up with that evidence of rehabilitation we discussed. Don't just tell the officer that you have changed, and understand that your entire life story may be up for review. Given the complexity and the high stakes, seeking professional legal advice from an experienced immigration attorney is more critical than ever. They can help you assess the strengths and weaknesses of your case, strategize on how to present your evidence, and prepare you for the naturalization interview. Good luck, you'll probably need it. The road to citizenship is more challenging, but it is not impassable. With meticulous preparation, unwavering honesty, and a proactive approach to demonstrating your good moral character, you can successfully navigate this new landscape. If this video helped you understand these important changes to U.S. citizenship requirements, please join our Prospect Global channel for more U.S. immigration news and policy analysis. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss our latest updates on immigration.